Welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Mayor William Bill Edwards. My guest today is Police Chief Keith Meadows. The Chief of Police of one of the greatest cities in Georgia. Thank you for tuning in. As I mentioned, my special guest today is Police Chief Keith Meadows. Keith Meadows has been with us a little over a year now and is doing an outstanding job. Chief, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've been in the police department?
Well, thank you so much for having me today, Mayor. Since I've been here for a year, I'd like to tell you some of the things that we've done over the course of the year. Since I've come aboard, we've managed to hire about 49% more police officers. That means we're putting more police officers on the street. As you well know, we have some challenges in some certain areas of the city, but we're committed to making sure that we put the right strategies in place to try to reduce those crimes that are occurring in those challenging areas.
Mm-hmm. You know, Chief, when I ran for mayor, one of the platforms I ran on was public safety.
Right.
And I believe that public safety is something that we have to have if we want to have a strong economic development program. How do you feel about that?
I feel it's extremely important. That's one of the reasons we work very closely with our Director of Economic Development, Chris Pike. Certainly he has priorities that he's set for the city, and we want to make sure that our strategies are in line with those priorities because, as you well know, people aren't going to invest in areas that they don't feel comfortable with citizens and their employees coming to work every day. We've purchased a paddy wagon. We're making sure that our beat officers don't have to leave their beats, so that when they do have to make an arrest, the paddy wagon actually comes around to them, pick up the prisoners and take them back. And see, all of these things help to create efficiencies. That's what we're looking for with respects to our equipment, making sure that our police officers, as they go about doing their jobs every day, that it's as efficient as it possibly can be.
Paddy wagon, I hadn't heard that word in years.
I know, right? You know, that's old school.
That's old school. But you know, one of the things that was communicated, you know, by police officers,
right,
and one thing that keeps them on the job is the ability to take a car home.
Right.
And I know you're ordering cars. Tell us about, is that the goal for the police department?
That's our ultimate goal. We believe, and studies have shown, that when police officers have take-home cars, they take better care of them. They don't run them in the ground. You have fewer wrecks out on the street. And so one of the things that we're doing right now, we're making sure that we're teaching our police officers defensive driving tactics, you know, as we move forward, so that we can try to make sure that we curb some of those accidents, those minor accidents, and the major ones as well, so that we can keep our fleet healthy and out on the roads. But certainly having that as a tool in our toolbox helps a great deal in terms of recruitment also, and then it helps with the maintenance of the fleet as well. And so our ultimate goal is to get to a full take-home car program. I believe that we're well on our way with the number of vehicles that we have coming in this year and in FY20, and so we feel very good about the health of our fleet as we move forward.
And that's wonderful. You know, we talk about the fleet, we talk about the take-home cars,
right,
things of nature, but you know, I come in as a new recruit to the police department. How can I get promoted? How can I go from one level to another? That's important.
That's a very good question. What I'm telling our younger recruits is that you can't expect anybody to invest in you if you're not prepared to invest in yourself. And one of the things we've really been stressing to our younger recruits coming in the door, if they haven't continued to get their degree, go back to school. Continuing education is very important, because after a while it's going to be impossible for you to get promoted in the City of South Fulton Police Department without some degree of college. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that for our police officers, that they're going out, getting the training that they need, and as they do that, they're preparing themselves for leadership roles within the organization. And for those police officers that want to go and assume the rank of detective and sergeant, training will be available to them. What we encourage them to do early in their career is to kind of map out where they see themselves 5 and 10 years from now in the police department, and ask them what it takes to get there, if they know what it takes to get there. And certainly a higher degree of education and training is required as we move forward as an organization, because you know as well as I do that helps with liability issues for the city. It helps produce more efficient police services for our citizenry. And so as we move forward, that's what we want, and that's what we expect our police officers to do.
Well, you know, let's talk a little bit about technology. You know, I'm not a big technology buff, but I know what I see.
Right.
I've seen a demonstration of the new vest. I know you're talking about this whole issue of drones and things of that nature. Talk to us a little bit about that technology and where we're going.
Well, we have to be really careful because technology can be misused. And we want to make sure that we have the appropriate policies in place to help drive our technological advances, but at the same time making sure that our technology is working in concert with each other. As we begin to roll out our drone program, we want to make sure that we get maximum use of it. As you know now, police department are using them for accident reconstruction. They're using them for covert surveillance opportunities. One of the things that I've even spoken about in to our citizens, that we'll be putting drones up for those ATVs and dirt bikes that people are constantly complaining about. As you know, we don't chase. We have a no chase policy with respects to those all-terrain vehicles, but putting drones up certainly will help us to track their locations and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that we're rolling out our technology, and we're rolling it out responsibly. Right now we're working with Georgia Tech. They're going to build us a digital dashboard so that they'll help us roll out our intelligence-driven policing model. We'll get a shape file that'll allow us to embed data in that shape file so that when our police officers go out to certain areas within our city, they'll be able to respond to the data that they see within that shape file. So that's going to be extremely important as we move forward. All of these technological advances we expect to work in concert with each other. It's one thing to have technology, but if the technology remains in silos, it becomes problematic, and then you wind up with these really expensive toys, which is what we're trying to avoid.
Well, Chief, it's exciting to have you and some of the things that you're doing. We're going to get in the next segment. We're going to talk about some specifics about crime. Welcome back to Let's Talk. Today's guest, once again, is Police Chief Keith Meadows. Chief, let's talk a little bit about some specifics about crime in the city of South Fulton.
Absolutely.
I know that, let's talk about the statistics and what types of crimes have been more evident in our city than others.
Right. Well, as you know, Mayor, we've done the public service announcements. Larceny from vehicles are driving our crime numbers. Everywhere we go throughout the city, we see consistent crime patterns, and certainly people breaking into folks' cars and the slider crimes have been a huge problem for us. One of the things that we have found is that some of it is gang related and some of it is just a crime of opportunity. But we certainly want to make sure that we're doing our best to identify who these perpetrators are. But above that, we want to make sure that we're educating our citizens on the importance of making sure that they leave a clean car without valuables and things of that nature in it. So petty thefts and car break-ins have been driving our crimes. We've seen relatively low violent crime rates, which is very good for the city. We certainly want to make sure that we continue to drive those numbers down. As I always say, one violent crime is one crime too many. But the education piece of the petty thefts and the larceny from vehicles is going to be extremely important to us as we move forward as a city.
I see that we're joining forces with the school system in terms of cameras on buses and cameras in the right-of-ways. I know we just had the document signed. Talk to us a little bit about what does that mean for the safety of our children.
Oh, it means it's huge. As you know, the Georgia legislature just passed a bill that allows us to put speed cameras up in school zones. We've created a partnership with Blue Line right now and with the Fulton County schools in an effort to try to put those cameras up in the areas around our 16 schools. And one of our studies we had over 2,000 speeders coming through a school zone in one day. That's entirely too much. And so it's not our goal, because everybody thinks the goal of the city is to make money off of these tickets. It's our goal to change behavior. And we want to make sure that we have our citizens slowing down as they're going through our school zones so that we can try to preserve a safe environment for our kids as they're going to and from school.
A lot of times you have to really work with our neighboring cities and their police force, their police departments. What are some of the ways you engage with surrounding cities in terms of public safety?
Well, just recently we just did Take Back Old National Day of Enforcement. In fact, it was just this past Friday. We had the Georgia Bureau of Investigations out there with us, the Georgia State Patrol, Union City was there with us, Fairburn, along with College Park, and the City of Atlanta, along with the City of South Fulton. It's important for us to build those partnerships as we move forward, because we want to take a regional approach as it relates to our crime fighting strategies. We can't do this thing alone. And so creating those force multipliers is going to be extremely important for us as we move forward as a city, because you're building relationships. And it gives us the opportunity to leverage those relationships in a very meaningful way. We caught this past weekend when we did Take Back Old National Day about 3 or 4 individuals that were wanted, some for violent crimes. And so that's extremely important, because those violent criminals don't just impact the city of South Fulton, they impact the region alike. And so as we move forward, we expect to build on our relationships with other jurisdictions. And right now we have a very good relationship with the city of the Fulton County Public School Police. We're certainly in partnership with each other. Our SWAT units are kind of joined at the hip. And as we move forward, we want to make sure that we're training and doing various details together.
Well, I can tell that I was at the football game this weekend with Westlake and Creekside. And I tell you, I've never seen so many police officers, even FBI.
Absolutely. We
were there.
We had the FBI was there because we were running various covert details along with our uniform presence as well. And so we had the FBI along with the Fulton County School Police and the City of South Fulton, and the GBI was out there with us also.
Well, I was proud to see it.
Absolutely.
You know, we're the 3rd largest city in Fulton County, 5th largest uncombined city in the state of Georgia, some 80-some square miles. And so let's talk about when we talk about crime, issues of public safety rather, that where do you find that the biggest concentration is, and what are we doing in those areas where you have the biggest concentration?
Well, the one thing that I talk about the most is our problematic areas. And why that's important for us is to make sure that we're educating our citizens on our crime patterns and trends, because we could put all of the police officers out on the street that we want. It's not a sustainable model. What we have to do is make sure that our citizens are engaged in crime fighting strategies as well. And so as we educate them, we're seeing a huge crime trend along the Old National Corridor. We want to make sure right now that we have targeted enforcement. And what I mean by that is that we know that there's a small group of people that's creating a bulk of the crimes in the city, right? When we know where those individuals are and where they live, we want them to see a City of South Fulton police officer every time they walk out their door. And so that's important for us, and we've had extreme success in some areas. We had an apartment complex where we were having anywhere from 17 to 18 E911 calls per day. After we engaged in our direct targeted enforcement in those areas, those numbers have gone down to 3 to 4 per day. And so we've seen huge success there, and we're going to work our way down Old National to make sure that we're seeing success every step of the way. It's going to be important for us to, and I tell our people to eat that elephant one bite at a time. But certainly around that Old National Corridor is challenging. It has been for years, but we want to make sure that we're really methodical in our approach to stamping out crime in that neighborhood, and that we're consistent and relentless in our efforts to reduce crime as well.
Well, one of the things that, one of the areas that we've had that's been historically a problem for us, because we don't understand the concept of from dusk to dawn, and that's been our parks. And we've put in park rangers now, that you are working with the Parks Department. Tell us a bit about that program and how is it coming along?
Well, you know, Mayor, when I first came out, you and I went to a park because of some incidences that happened, and we engaged our youth, and we saw that our youth were concerned, along with their parents, about the safety and well-being of our children while they're engaged in the park. Certainly we want to make sure that we're providing a safe environment for our families to live, work, and play, and our parks are a huge part of that. We've started the park ranger program. We've started out with 5 park rangers and a supervisor. We want to certainly expand that. In fact, today we just added another park ranger to the bunch. We expect that she'll be a huge asset to the park ranger program. She was a former WNBA player. And so it's not just that we're putting police officers out there. We want to start trying to reach our youth in a meaningful way. And so the park rangers are expected to engage our youth and to try to create a platform for them where they're comfortable coming to police and telling us things when they see things in and around our parks and our communities as well.
Just recently, I've appointed a new judge, Judge Fonnie Willis. Great to have Fonnie on board.
Right.
One of her concerns when she first came was not a concern because we were already doing it.
Right.
It's court safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are we doing in terms of enhancing or maintaining court safety in the city?
Well, right now we have a supervisor that's there. We have about 4 or 5 individuals that work specifically just geared towards court safety, and we take it seriously because we want to make sure that our judges and our court staff are safe. Certainly, as we move forward as a city, that's going to be extremely important to make sure that when people come into the courtroom, they're coming into a safe and sound environment. And we've worked with the new judge coming in to try to help put some security protocols in place that she's comfortable with and that we're comfortable with as a police agency as well. And so certainly everybody has their different take on what that means in different courtrooms. But Judge Willis has made her voice known about what she expects, and we certainly see our efforts being fruitful as we move forward.
Well, one thing I'm excited about is the future move of the police department to Old National Highway. Along with the courtroom and possibly the fire department, we're about to sign that lease and move forward. So you'll have a bigger space. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. Right now we have police resources throughout the city, and having that headquarter environment is going to be extremely important for us, not only just for workspace, but in terms of our planning and strategic view for a police department as we move forward. That's going to be really important. And then it gives us the ability to engage our court staff a little bit more so that as we see problems, we'll be able to fix them collectively before it makes it up through the ranks of the organization. And so I think it's going to be important, and I think it's going to do wonders for that area of the city.
I think what it does too is its location.
Absolutely.
When a police officer goes to the headquarters, he has to drive the length
of Old National.
Absolutely. So you'll constantly see police cars driving the length of Old National Highway.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things. It's funny, I just got a text message from a longtime friend who told me that his mother lives in the Old National area, and he said that he has never seen as many police officers riding and patrolling the Old National. But can you imagine once we get those headquarters down there and you have police cars constantly coming to and from that particular headquarters, it's going to do wonders for the Old National corridor, and we're really excited about it.
What has been your relationship, your police officers, and what are you doing in the future to engage that relationship more in terms of the business community?
Right. Well, one of the things we've done is we've done the mayor's walks with you. We've gotten out and we've heard the concerns from a lot of our businesses, and that's extremely important for us. We've found that some of our businesses, quite frankly, are involved in illicit activity. And we make no bones about it. We want business in the city of South Fulton, but we insist on responsible business. And so we'll do what we can to try to make sure those people that are operating irresponsibly, we're going to do our best to drive them out of the city. But for those people that are here and they're operating legally, we certainly want to engage them, find out from them what their concerns are, because we don't want our businesses to start to close up in this city. We couldn't thrive economically with that. We talked about that earlier in our conversation. So we want to make sure that we're addressing those concerns, and usually they're centered around crime. And one of the things that we're doing as an organization also is we are really big in CEPTED, which is controlling crime through environmental design. And so our community policing section is going out and making assessments of our various businesses and giving them tips on ways that they could better secure their facilities and make it a much safer environment for their patrons and their employees.
Yes. Well, Chief, you've been great for us.
Thank you.
It's been a great decision for us to bring you over here.
Well, thank you so much.
And you've done an outstanding job. And once again, I tell people all the time, I ran for mayor based on public safety, and you have truly helped me enhance that promise or that commitment to this community. Thank you, Chief Meadows. And when we come back, we'll be talking about educational efforts to help fight crime in our neighborhood. Welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm Mayor William Bill Edwards. Today our guest is Police Chief Keith Meadows. Chief, we talked about a lot of stuff, enforcement and other things. What I want to talk about right now is community support and community engagement.
Right, that's extremely important, Mayor. As you know, we're in the middle of starting our Citizens Police Academy, well, our Citizen City Academy. We think it's extremely important for us to educate our citizenry on our crime patterns and trends as we move forward. As you heard me say earlier, just our police officers having that knowledge is not a sustainable model. So we want to make sure that we're educating our citizens to the highest degree to make sure that they're giving us the feedback that we need. Also, I think that it goes a long way in terms of helping us to build a sense of trust and legitimacy among our citizens when we're that open and transparent about our crime patterns and trends. You see so often in many cities that people try to take those crime patterns and hold them close to the vest. Well, we're not running from our crime numbers. Quite frankly, we feel that they're comparable to most cities around the Atlanta metropolitan area. But right now, we're in the process of we're constantly fighting against that perception of crime in the city of South Fulton. And so we want to make sure that as we educate our citizens, they're educating other people on what they're seeing with respects to crime, so that they'll help us fight against that perception of crime in the city of South Fulton.
Well, I know that you have people out like Hattie Cotton Tukes and others that visit communities, talk about how communities can keep themselves safe. How effective has that been for you, homeowner associations and things of that nature?
Well, we have over 400 subdivisions, and what we're encouraging a lot of our neighbors to do and our subdivisions to do is to organize among themselves. That way, as we begin to pass around information, we're getting real information. You know as well as I do, sometimes when you get on social media, you see erroneous information being passed around, and we're constantly fighting against that bad information that's out there. But as we begin to organize our communities better, we'll be able to put out information, and then those people will be able to debunk a lot of those rumors that are floating around about crime that's occurring in the city. And so Captain Tukes, as you mentioned, she's been instrumental in helping us to build up a lot of our HOAs and our neighborhood watch programs and things of that nature. So we encourage our citizens to start their neighborhood watches. One of the things we would like to see is our neighborhood planning unit, so that we could start to get more of the communities to come together to talk about what they're seeing in their immediate areas, so that we can try to help them solve problems from a regional approach as opposed to just operating in silos with their respective subdivisions. It's going to be real important that we start to bring communities together because of the fact that we have 400 subdivisions in the city of South Fulton.
Truancy Retention and Innovation program, TRIP.
Right.
Something you and I have talked about.
Right.
A program that I had many years ago as I was a commissioner for South Fulton. We want to bring that program back. We want to incorporate it with the school board. So what I'm asking is, your portion is to make sure that we have the officers and the place, and the school board is to have counselors on hand. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you think it's going to work? It was very successful. We reduced neighborhood robberies, or neighborhood burglaries rather. Reduced them to down 17%. How do you see that working?
I think it's going to be huge for us. We certainly want to, as we go through and we look at the truancy problem, it's a huge issue throughout the region. And so we want to make sure that our police officers are, as we said earlier, engaging our youth and engaging them in a meaningful way. We want to make sure that during the day when they're supposed to be in school, that our police officers are out looking for them, making sure that we're transporting them to the truancy center so that they can get that much needed education as they begin to grow. Having resources there, not just police resources, but counselors there as well, will help us to find out why kids are chronically truant and help them build a capacity to go to school every day. That's going to be extremely important. You'd be amazed that when you hear some of these stories, some kids aren't going to school every day simply because they don't have clean clothes to wear.
Sure.
And so we want to make sure that as we go out and we're engaging our youth, that we're helping them to build that capacity to go to school every day, and that we're interacting with them in a meaningful way. And to me, making sure that they get to school and that they have the right resources is about as meaningful as you can get.
I know that a lot of times even at our meetings, people are always talking about programs for the youth.
Right.
And they always kind of coordinate that with, well, you're putting them in jail, but there's no program for the youth. Talk to us about that, and how can the police department help in youth programming?
Well, you and I have discussed this any number of times. We're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. What we can do is try to help make sure that whatever resources that we have within the police department, that we're organizing them in such a way to help our youth as we move forward. Right now, what we're looking at doing is we're building out our PAL program. We're looking at expanding that. We want to make sure that as we roll out the Police Athletic League, that we have a way for our police officers to reach out and volunteer to help our youth and find out what their needs are as they're going out into the various communities. We also want to make sure that our park ranger program, as you know, the mayor, you all approved a STEM program for our youth and after school. Are our police officers engaging in that program and in that process effectively? Those are the sort of things that we're looking at. And then the truancy program. So we have three very effective, what I believe are programs within the City of South Fulton Police Department that as we move forward as an organization, we expect to build on those, but also we expect that the community will take some ownership in that as well. It's been my experience that anything that's born out of the community is sustainable, and so we're going to try to work with some of our corporate partners and some of our various communities to make sure there's some programs built within the community as well. Yeah. And so that's going to be extremely important also.
And to move that further, you have purchased, and what people call a sprinter. We don't have the money for a sprinter.
I know.
But it's not a sprinter, but a van that can fit into your youth programming.
Absolutely. That van is going to be specifically designed. We wanted to use it for our truancy program. We want to use it for our PAL program, and we're transporting our kids to and from various activities and so forth. So that's going to be a huge asset for us as we move forward as an organization. That gives us a piece of equipment to help and aid in our youth outreach. And so we're really proud of that.
Well, the community should be proud of you too. But I think one of the things, we never have big issues with our police department. We don't have things like Ferguson and things of that nature. And I kind of put that on the fact that you do a great job of training. Right. And training is not always defensive, how to use a gun. Right. But sometimes training is about how do we approach and how do we talk to people.
And diffuse situations. That's when I look around the country and I see some of the incidences that we're seeing, I'm not seeing much in the way of de-escalation. And so sometimes as a profession, you can shoot yourself in the foot. One of the things I did when we first came in was we abandoned this zero tolerance mentality as it relates to crime. You have some people that feel like you have to write 4,000 and 5,000 traffic tickets a month to try to help reduce crime. Well, the only thing that does is generate revenue, and it doesn't do anything in a way of building a sense of trust and legitimacy among our citizens, because they know who's committing the crimes in our community. And when we're not actively engaged with those people, it takes away from your legitimacy as an organization. So one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to put our priorities where they should be, and that's focused on those individuals that's creating a bulk of the crime in our communities, to make sure that our officers are constantly engaging them in such a way that, quite frankly, we want to make life uncomfortable for those people that's constantly committing crimes in our communities. And so we'll continue along with that strategy, but at the same time, we want Mama Jones, as she going to church, not to be fearful that she's going to get one of those 4,000 tickets as she's headed to church on Sundays. And so certainly as you move forward as a police department, it's like changing a culture, and we're committed to doing that within the City of South Fulton Police Department.
And some of the things that people don't understand that you do, I understand it, and you don't just do it for me because I'm the mayor. One of the things is to call for extra check and patrol.
Right, absolutely.
When you're going on a vacation or something.
Right.
Those are little things people don't know about. Talk to us a little bit about how we can maintain their safety while they're out of town.
Right. Well, I'm really excited about our website. Right now, we have a new P2C website. If you go on to the City of South Fulton Police Department.org, you can go on. You can fill out a vacation request. You can go in there. You can actually tell the police department when you'll be on vacation, when you'll be coming back, and that'll be routed directly to our patrol units. Well, also, you can go on and make police reports for certain offenses as well. You don't have to wait for the police department. You can go in and put the information in there. It'll be routed directly to a police officer who will review it and have the opportunity to approve it.
Well, Chief, we covered a lot today.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate you and all the work that not only you're doing, but the ladies and gentlemen on the street and in the police precincts, you know, kudos to them for a fantastic job. We want to thank everybody for tuning in to Let's Talk with Mayor William Bill Edwards.